Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Drop, and this is my performance review of the Wade Shadow 6 V2. So this is of course the second version of the Shadow 6, and now that summer is coming around, it's getting actually pretty dang hot. The weather's been really weird out here though. It's been raining, it's getting cold, but also it's getting hot. Like during the day, you know what I mean? Of course, with the V2, they made it the summer version. And of course, especially if you are playing on an outdoor court, I mean, if you are playing on an outdoor court during the summer, your feet get extremely hot. You know, the ground, the floor is really, really hot from the sun. So you want good ventilation, which is what they did here in the V2. So this shoe retails for only 120 bucks, which I think is a really good price, especially for the tech that you're getting. You're getting full length boom in this shoe. If you guys do want to cop it, try to leave in the free link in the description box. And if you do choose to get this shoe, it does help me out if you buy it through the free link in the description box. And also for my voice may sound a little raspy, you know, because I am still recovering from being sick. I'm fine, but it's just my voice. I don't know why, so I apologize for that. But anyways, let's get it started right off with the Tracciones. In this color, we have a fully white rubber outsole. It's a solid rubber, of course, and it is identical to the original Shadow 6, of course, and it is using tough rubber, and tough rubber, of course, is supposed to be their tough version of rubber. It's supposed to be 2.5 times more durable than traditional rubber, which of course is a good thing. So again, it is made for outdoor use as well, but of course it'll be good for indoor use too. If they improve the durability, it'll last way longer, of course, than traditional rubber. So yeah, how is the bite? Yeah, it's pretty much the exact same as the Shadow 6 as far as performance goes. It has a very solid bite on a clean court. I want to say it's top tier though, you know, compared to like the All City 13, the 808 5, and the WoW 11. It's not as hard of a stop, but it still has a really solid, very, very nice hard stop, right? So out of 10, I'd probably give it a score of like 8.5 to a 9. So very, very nice, respectable performance on a clean court. Also on dust, it does pick up a little bit of dust, just like the regular Shadow 6 as well. Nothing terrible. It is very easy to wipe off as well, right? So if it does pick up dust, you just do a quick slight wipe and you're good to go. So that's a good thing as well. So if you're playing on a slightly dusty court, you should be fine. You just need to wipe a little bit and you still have really good stops, right? Once you get into a really dusty court, like moderate to heavy dust, then it is affected by dust a little bit more. Like it does pick up that dust pretty quickly, right? But again, it is very easy to wipe off. And once you wipe off the dust and you have really good stops, again, it's just you do need to wipe more frequently, right? So dust performance isn't the best, but it is pretty good. Also, as far as the squeak goes, the squeak isn't super loud. It's not a very, very like loud and high-pitched squeak like the WoW 11 or like the Joker 1 GT or something like that, but it still has a pretty nice loud high-pitched squeak, which of course has nothing to do with performance. But if you like to have a nice squeak, this shoe has got you covered a little bit. And also, as far as durability goes, again, you should be fine. You do have this crazy pattern, of course, first of all, but also the grooves are actually quite thick and the rubber is hard, and you have pretty deep grooves, and you do have kind of like a pivot circle here where the ball of your foot is the Wave Wade logo. So yeah, you should be fine for durability, even if you are playing on an outdoor court. And also, of course, it is decoupled. As far as the outsole goes, you can see the Pro Bar lock, and they are saying it is a fork shaped plate. It's an anti-torsion plate, of course. It's not, fully decoupled though, because I guess it does attach here, kind of, you know what I mean? It's not like a two-piece outsole, because that's rubber as well. But anyways, the traction, of course, is solid, right? And now moving on to the heel to toe transition. Overall, very, very smooth. Not super springy though. It is a little bit, but just more like flexible and smooth, right? So here in the heel, we do have a very nice curved shape, of course. And also with this cage, it's actually not that stiff of a cage. It is all rubber, of course. And sometimes, shoes have a very stiff rubber, which makes it feel really, really clunky, right? But this is a softer rubber. So even when you're doing heel dominant strides, right? You do feel a very nice plushness. So it's not clunky at all. Feels great in the heel. And then here in the forefoot, we also have a very nice curved shape. So just from the shape, it does feel very smooth, right? And also here in the forefoot, we do have a good amount of forefoot flex, right? It's not even in the forefoot, it's more like right here. And it's kind of weird because if you look at the tech breakdown, they are saying it looks like a full-length plate, a plate that goes all the way here into the forefoot. However, it still bends really easily. Look at that. You know what I mean? And torsional support definitely doesn't seem the best, of course. So if you need a lot of torsional support because your feet then of course this isn't the best. But most people, you don't really need it too much. This is adequate, you know, for most people. And also, again, it's not the most kind of like springy feel. It's more just like a very flexible, very nimble feel. If you like that, and of course I do like that. I don't like it too soft, but also I'd rather have it way softer than just like something extremely stiff. For example, like the foam posits or like the Jordan 12, right? So there is a heel to toe transition there. Moving on to the cushioning setup. So for $120, you get full length boom, right? And of course, on the lateral side, it is fully caged, so you can't really see it. And also around the heel as well, right? But here on the medial side, kind of like in the midfoot, like in the middle of the shoe, you can see the exposed boom. Boom looks like, you know, Boost, of course, but I would say it's a little bit nicer than Boost in my personal opinion, right? So first of all, the insole is pretty nice. It does actually add a little bit to the stepping comfort. But of course, underneath that, we do have a soft mesh struggle board. It is full length, of course, but I would say it's more just soft in the heel, right? In the forefoot, it does get a little bit stiffer, of course. And as far as the overall core feel goes, the core feel is pretty nice. I would say it's a little bit better than average. However, the heel does get a little bit higher up off the ground, which I think is a good thing, because usually shoes that are made for outdoor use, they make the cushion a lot thicker. But in this shoe, they made it a little bit thinner. Of course, it's not as good as, you know, like the Luka 4s, or like it doesn't have the best core feel, but it's still pretty nice, right? And then of course, like I said, the step-in comfort is pretty nice because of the insole. It's not amazing, but then with the soft mesh strobel board in the heel, I can definitely feel my heel digging into that boom, of course, with the soft mesh strobel board. So it's really nice. It does get pretty bouncy as well, especially when I'm doing heel dominant strides, right? But then of course, like I said, the forefoot does get a little bit more dead. Of course, comparing it to like the 808 Ultra, you know, even the All City 13 and the WOW 11, which is still bouncy in the forefoot. The Shadow 6 and the Shadow 6 V2 gets a little bit more stiff and a little bit more dead in the forefoot, right? As far as the overall impact protection goes, I am fine on heel strikes, right? If I'm doing very hard heel strikes, I'm good to go. My heel doesn't hurt at all. Forefoot, I'm still covered, but it's not the best, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't hurt my foot, you know, in the forefoot, but it's still like not super plush and not super comfortable, of course, for impact protection. So it's not the best, but it's adequate. So the overall cushioning setup is actually pretty nice, especially for the price. Does it excel in anything? I wouldn't say so, but again, it is a very nice cushioning setup for the price. And I guess I do like, you know, the heel cushion, you know, the forefoot cushion could be a little bit better in my personal opinion. So there's that. And now, of course, moving on to the upper, right? So the upper is where they change it up a good amount. So they are calling this the cool shell upper, right? It literally says cool shell right over here. And look at how crazy thin this material is, right? So here in the toe box, we do have, it's like a screen mesh, right? And we do have like this embroidered part. This material is embroidered with these lines, and of course that does add for durability, extra durability, and also for a little bit more support, of course. We do have some underlaying materials right here on the lateral side, and underlaying and overlaying materials here on the medial side, right? So yeah, it feels extremely thin, but of course the ventilation is insane. You have a lot of airflow. Underneath that, you can see another mesh material, but of course you can still see how airy that is. You know, it's a very open mesh underneath that. So it's basically this mesh material, of course, with the tongue that goes underneath this material. It's a half booty construction tongue, of course. So yeah, it's really thin. Overall, it does feel pretty supportive. You know, I don't really have any issues with support, but of course, with this really soft material, you're not going to get the best support. I feel like for most people, you should be fine, however, unless you want something really, really sturdy and tanky feeling, right? Also, here in the midfoot, it stays extremely minimal and thin. Look at that. You know what I mean? So they just try to give you the best airflow. And even on the medial side, first of all, there's a W for weight, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that's also literally see-through. So yeah, it's just a really minimal feeling upper. Also for the tongue, we have pretty much zero padding. We do have these kind of like flywire type cables, really, really thick cables on the lateral and medial side of the shoe for extra support. And then here in the ankle area, also, again, really minimal for the padding. Here in the back of the shoe, it does get a little bit more padding for the Achilles, but still not that much padding, right? So overall, it's just a really minimal feel, of course, with really good ventilation and adequate support, which does feel really nice. And of course, you don't need to break it in at all. And as far as the durability goes, with this type of material, I don't think it would be the best. But overall, I do like the quality as well. It doesn't feel cheap to me, you know what I mean? So there is a material there. And now moving on to the fit. So as far as the fit goes, I went true to size, and this shoe fits me freaking snug, guys. So yeah, it's a really, really snug fit. Here in the toe box, literally, Like just, I can't curl my toes up. It's a really snug fit. Also, lengthwise, my toes go right to the edge of the shoe. So for the fit, I would suggest going up half a size for most people. And also width-wise, it's more on the narrow side. You know, it's not crazy narrow, you know what I mean? But it is a pretty narrow fit here. So yeah, it's just a really snug fit, you know what I mean? And I could not wear this shoe casually at all. Like when I was going out, you know, going out with my girl or walking my dogs or whatever, getting groceries, I would of course just wear these. When I'm testing a shoe, I like to wear them casually as well, just to see how it, you know, feels. And yeah, it just really hurt my foot because it was just such a snug fit, right? But of course, when I started hooping, I like a really snug fit, so I don't really mind it as much, especially since this material isn't super stiff. It is pretty forgiving. However, still it is a very snug fit, right? So just be careful with that. So there is the fit there. Moving on to the support and lockdown. Surprisingly, it was adequate for me. Of course, I am a pretty light dude. I'm not very big, so I don't need a crazy amount of support, but it was adequate for me, and I feel like it'll be adequate for most people, right? So first of all, where it says Cool Show, we do have this kind of like overlaying synthetic material, right? So that does add a little bit of stiffness here in the forefoot because there is no kind of like lateral counter. I guess we do have this like gold piece, you know what I mean? It kind of goes around the entire shoe and goes into the Wave Weight logo. That comes up just a tiny bit, you know what I mean? But yeah, first of all, my forefoot still wasn't coming out of the footbed, and also here in the heel, we have the Wave Weight logo, and it seems like there's an internal TPU heel counter as well. So lateral containment was good for me, and also with this, even though this upper is not super supportive, I feel like maybe because the fit was just so tight, my foot wasn't really moving inside of the shoe too much either, so I was fine on lateral movements, right? Of course, if you are a bigger dude though, I don't think this will be adequate, you know, especially if you need a lot of support. But again, for most people, I think it should be fine, you know what I mean? Also, lateral stability was fine, you know, I had no issues with that. And also for lockdown, I was fine as well. Because of the snug fit, my foot wasn't moving inside of the shoe, and also I had zero heel slippage or anything like that, because, you know, the overall shoe is extremely flexible. So overall, support and lockdown was adequate for me. And now moving on to the weight of the shoe. If I remember correctly, it was around average, a little bit lighter, right? No, it's actually way lighter. So it's 10.75 ounces. Let's check the other shoe. 10.65 ounces. So the average weight of my shoes is around 12.5 ounces. So 2 ounces lighter than average is actually very lightweight. Wave Weight is kind of killing it with lightweight shoes. You know what I mean? A lot of their shoes are around the 10-ounce range, which is kind of insane, you know? But anyways, yeah, this shoe feels extremely lightweight, very minimal, especially because of the upper, which makes it feel really nice, but still has a really good kind of like flexible, nimble feel, you know what I mean? With adequate cushion, because, you know, I just played in the Luka 4, I just reviewed those, right? It kind of feels like the Luka 4 in the sense of like it's a really minimal and lightweight shoe, you know what I mean? It has better traction, of course, it has, you know, a better bite. However, it just has better cushion. It's a little bit thicker. If you need more cushion, especially if you are playing on an outdoor court, this is actually a very nice option, you know what I mean? So yeah, did I feel responsive? Yeah, I definitely did feel responsive and very quick when I was playing in this shoe. And now moving on to the aesthetics, this shoe looks really nice, of course. You know, it looks literally the exact same as the regular Shadow 6, but I do really like this white and gold color. It's just a super clean look, you know what I mean? So tell us what you guys think of the aesthetics down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, yeah, is it my favorite shoe? I wouldn't say it's my favorite hoop shoe, you know what I mean? My favorite hoop shoe is like the 808 Ultra, the All City 13, you know, the Joker 1 GT. However, those are all more expensive than the Shadow 6 V2, you know what I mean? And if you're trying to save money, but you still want good cushion with the full-length boom, very reliable traction, of course, and very good ventilation with a really lightweight and minimal feel, but still overall feel supportive, then this is a great shoe, you know what I mean? And if you're a guard, you should be fine. This is a great guard shoe, especially since it's just so light. As far as like, you know, for bigger dudes, I probably wouldn't recommend this. I would probably recommend the regular Shadow 6 with like the leather or like the synthetic material, you know what I mean? Not this, because it's a little bit softer than that, you know? But overall, it is a very solid shoe. So anyways, that about concludes my performance review of the Wade Shadow 6 V2. Again, if you guys do want to cop, I'll try to leave in the feed link in the description box. But that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.